Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Moonvale, where I narrate Reddit stories while playing Minecraft. So relax, get comfortable, and let's get into today's first story. My best friend warned me about him. I thought she was jealous. Let's begin. The flash of a diamond in the dimly lit restaurant was supposed to be the beginning of my happily ever after. But all I could hear was my best friend's voice. 3 months ago, sitting across from me, warning me. She told me the man holding my hand was a ghost. I looked down at the ring, then at the man I had spent 2 years building a life with. And for the first time, the reflection in that stone did not look like light. It looked like distortion. He was smiling. That perfect smile, carefully rehearsed. The same smile that convinced me my best friend was bitter, lonely, jealous of what we had. He leaned in to kiss me, and then his phone buzzed. A soft vibration against the table. A small sound, but felt like thunder. A notification slid across the screen. Not a text from a mistress. Not a secret bank alert. A memory notification from a cloud storage account. A photo. 5 years ago. Him, standing in front of a house I recognized. Holding a woman I did not. The caption was simple. 1 year down. Forever to go with my beautiful wife. The air in my lungs turned to lead. He told me he had never been married. He told me his parents died in a car crash when he was 20. He built an entire identity out of tragedy, out of solitude. He made me feel like I was the only person in the world who truly knew him. I looked at the phone, then back at his face, and for the first time, I did not see a soulmate. I saw a predator. 700 days, studying my vulnerabilities, learning exactly where to strike. "Is everything okay, babe?" he asked. His voice dripping with that soft concern that used to make my heart melt. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I think I have," I whispered, my hand trembling, reaching for my wine glass. And suddenly, I remembered that night. My best friend sitting me down, her face pale, begging me to look into his past. I laughed at her. I called her toxic, unsupportive. I blocked her number. I told him she was jealous of what we had. I traded a 15-year friendship for a man who did not even exist. And as the weight of the engagement ring pressed into my finger, I realized something worse. He had not just faked his past. He was using my credit score to fund a life I was never meant to be part of. I did not pull my hand away. I let him slide that cold, heavy band of platinum onto my finger. I even forced out a few tears. He mistook them for joy. They were not joy. They were the first drops of mourning for the woman I used to be, the one naive enough to believe in fate. The restaurant staff cheered. A nearby table sent over champagne, and I felt like an actress on a stage, where the floorboards were already rotting beneath my feet. "To us," he said, his blue eyes crinkling in that way I once found charming. Now it looked different. Less romance, more calculation. To a life with no secrets. No secrets, I repeated. The lie tasted like copper. That night, I waited. I listened to his breathing shift. Slow, heavy, rhythmic, deep sleep. I slipped out of bed, the silk of my nightgown scraping against my skin like sandpaper. I did not go for his phone. He was too careful for that. Biometrics. White codes. No, I went for his work laptop. The one he claimed was encrypted by his firm. I had watched him type the password 1,000 times. My birthday, followed by the date we met. A final, sickening layer of grooming. The screen flickered to life. I started digging. No corporate spreadsheets. Instead, a folder buried 3 layers deep. Inside a hidden partition, the title read, Asset Management. My stomach dropped. Inside were subfolders, each one named after a woman. Mine was the most recent. Scans of my passport, my social security card, a detailed list of my grandmother's jewelry collection, inventory. But the folder labeled Elena, that stopped my heart. Elena was the woman in the photo, the wife. As I scrolled through the documents, his tragic backstory began to unravel. His parents were not dead. They were alive, living in a retirement community in Florida, funded by a so-called disability settlement. The amount matched exactly what Elena received after a suspicious slip and fall at a construction site he managed. 4 years ago, my hand started to shake. Then I found the emails. A private investigator He did not meet me by accident at that coffee shop. He had been tracking me for 3 weeks, learning my routine, my favorite drink, my route home, and the most important detail. I was the sole beneficiary of a trust fund. It matured on my 30th birthday. Next month, my best friend was not jealous. She had seen him months ago, at a bar in the city, arguing with a woman who looked exactly like Elena. She tried to tell me. I chose his bed over her truth. I looked at him sleeping through the doorway. He looked peaceful, perfect, and I realized something chilling. If I left now, he would simply move on. Another folder, another woman. He would vanish with the $500,000 he already siphoned from my secondary accounts. And I would be left with a ruined reputation and a blocked best friend. I sat in the glow of the monitor, heart pounding, mind racing. If he wanted to manage my assets, I was going to give him a portfolio he would never forget. I reached for my phone, and I did the hardest thing I have ever done. I unblocked my best friend. The 3 dots on the screen pulsed. 1, 2, 3, over and over. It felt like an eternity before her name finally appeared. I've been waiting for this call. She replied instantly. We met at a 24-hour diner near the county line, the kind of place where the air smells like old grease, and the lighting is too harsh for lies. When I walked in, she did not say I told you so. She stood up and pulled me into a hug so tight. I felt the last 2 years of delusion finally crack. I'm so sorry, I sobbed into her shoulder. You were right. About everything. He's not who he says he is. I know, she whispered, guiding me into the booth. And I wasn't guessing, honey. I've been talking to her. To Elena. My heart stopped. You found her? Is she okay? She's not okay. My friend slid a tablet across the cracked Formica table. She's broke. She's traumatized. She's living in a shelter in Ohio. He cleaned out her life and disappeared the night her father died. He waits for moments of maximum grief or maximum transition. Then he strikes. He didn't just take her money. He took her identity. Dozens of credit lines in her name. He left her a ghost in the eyes of the law. I scrolled through the photos Elena had sent. The same romantic picnics. The same handwritten poems. The same soft lighting. The same promises. He had a script. I was not a partner. I was a role. But here's what he doesn't know, my friend said, her voice dropping lower. Elena didn't give up. She's been tracking the IP addresses he uses to pay his parents' retirement home bills. When I reached out to her, we realized you were the next project. She's been waiting for someone on the inside to help her pull the plug. What do we do? I asked. The engagement ring suddenly felt like a shackle. He's waiting for your 30th birthday, she said. He plans to move your trust fund into a joint investment account he already set up. We don't stop him. We let him think he's winning. Tomorrow you go to the bank. You open a mirror account. We divert the funds before they ever hit the joint account. And we replace that $500,000 with a digital die pack. Elena's brother built it. He's a cybersecurity specialist. I stared out the diner window. The highway was dark, empty. I thought about the man sleeping in my bed. The man who promised me forever. While planning my financial execution, he thought I was a victim. He thought my best friend was an obstacle he cleared. He had no idea the jealous friend and the discarded wife were now designing his downfall. He wants my birthday to be a celebration, I said. Something cold settled into my bones. Let's make sure it's a day he never forgets. The 3 weeks leading up to my birthday were a masterclass in psychological warfare. Every time he kissed me, it felt like touching a corpse. Every time he talked about our future home, I dug my nails into my palms. To keep from screaming, I watched him across the dinner table, studied the ease of his lies, and I wondered how many other asset management folders were still active. But I played my role, the doting fiancé, the woman who had rightly chosen her man over her meddling friend. On the morning of my 30th, he woke me with breakfast in bed, a handwritten card, promises of legacy. The trust fund was scheduled to transfer at noon. I've set everything up with a broker, babe, he said, his voice smooth, reassuring. As soon as the transfer clears, we move it into the diversified portfolio. We'll be set for life. I can't wait, I said, smiling through the bile in my throat. Let's make tonight a real party. I even invited a few surprises. The party was at a private gallery downtown. Glass walls, expensive champagne, a guest list he believed he controlled. He was in his element, charming my colleagues, playing devoted partner to the woman who had just inherited a fortune. He kept checking his phone, waiting for confirmation. At 9 p.m., I stepped onto the podium to give a toast. The room fell silent. He stood front and center, chest lifted, ready to bask in the glow. "I want to thank you all for being here," I began, my voice steady. "But most of all, I want to thank the man who taught me everything I know about investment." I looked directly at him. His phone buzzed. I saw it, the flicker of triumph in his eyes, the transfer notification. He tapped the screen. Triumph shifted to confusion. Confusion turned to terror. The die pack had activated. The moment he accessed the funds, the script did not just freeze the money. It broadcast his real identity to every credit bureau, every bank he had ever touched, and the local police department. But I wasn't finished. "My best friend warned me about this man," I continued. "I thought she was jealous. I thought she wanted to ruin my happiness. But she was only trying to introduce me to some old friends." The side doors opened. Elena walked in first, her face calm, cold. Behind her, 2 more women. Asset number 2, asset number 3. The color drained from his face. He turned toward the back exit. My best friend was already there. 2 plainclothes officers beside her. "The joint account is empty," I said, stepping down from the podium. "The trust fund is secured in escrow for the victims of a man named Marcus Thorne, or whatever name you're using this week. And that broker you've been talking to? Digital spoof. You haven't been moving my money. You've been documenting your own confession for 3 weeks." He looked around the room, at the woman he ruined, at the woman he tried to ruin, at the friend he thought he erased. The perfect smile was gone. He looked small as they led him away in handcuffs. Elena approached me. She did not speak. She simply removed the engagement ring from my finger and handed it to the police. Evidence. I walked to my best friend. There were no words left. I rested my head on her shoulder, and together, we watched the man who never existed disappear into the back of a squad car. He tried to turn my life into a bank account, but the most valuable assets are not listed on a spreadsheet. They're the people who stay when the money is gone and the lies collapse. Have you ever ignored a gut feeling until it was almost too late? Now, the second story. My ex thought I'd beg. I sent 1 text instead. Let's begin. The only light in my kitchen came from the microwave clock. A dull green glow. 12:03 a.m. It had been exactly 3 hours since he walked out of the apartment, his suitcase wheels clicking against the hardwood. Like a countdown, he stood by the door before leaving. That look on his face, practiced pity, the expression he used whenever he wanted me to feel small. "You're going to realize how much you need me," he said. Calm, confident. "And when you do, don't just call. I want to hear you admit you can't handle the bills, the car, or this life without me." He was waiting for the breakdown, probably sitting in his car right now, a block away, watching my window, waiting for the frantic message. "Please come back." Because a woman who begs is a woman who can be controlled. For the next 5 years. For 3 years he had chipped at me, told me my promotion was luck, said my savings only existed because of his financial guidance. He wanted me on my knees, because a woman who begs does not ask questions, like where $10,000 from the joint savings account suddenly disappeared. But he made one fatal mistake. He thought I was crying over losing him. I was not. I was staring at a folder he accidentally left behind. He thought it was old tax returns. It wasn't. It was the paper trail for the business loans he had taken out in my name. I picked up my phone. My thumb hovered over his contact. I could still hear his voice in my head, the one that told me I was nothing. I inhaled slowly, deleted the 3-paragraph apology I had typed out of habit, and replaced it with 1 sentence. I did not ask him to come home. I did not ask for the money back. I sent the only text that could turn his victory into a prison cell. The silence after I sent that text was deafening. I sat on the kitchen floor, cold towel pressing through my jeans, and I watched the screen. Read. The receipt turned blue. He did not reply. I imagined him staring at it, the color draining from his face. This stupid, helpless girl had learned how to read a ledger. 5 minutes later, my phone did not buzz. The downstairs buzzer did. Violent, rapid, someone slamming their hand against it. I stayed where I was. Then I checked the security monitor. There he was, face twisted with rage, pacing the sidewalk. Not calm, not composed, not pitying. He looked cornered. "Open the door," he shouted into the intercom, his voice crackling through the cheap speaker. "You have no idea what you're doing. That's my business. That's our future. You're going to ruin everything over a misunderstanding." I walked to the intercom. My finger hovered over the talk button. For 3 years, he used my fear of making a scene to keep me silent. He knew I hated conflict, so he turned our relationship into a minefield. Tonight, the field was clear. "It's not a misunderstanding, Mark," I said, my voice flat, sharp. "It's a felony. I've already spoken to the fraud investigator at the bank. I also sent a copy of the loan application to your boss, the one you call your silent partner." Turns out, he didn't know he was partnering with someone who forges signatures to cover gambling debts. The banging stopped. Complete silence. Through the camera, I watched him slump against the brick wall. For a moment, I saw the old version of him, the one who could convince me. The sky was green, if he whispered it sweetly enough. "Please," he said, "if you do this, I'll lose everything. I'll go to prison. Is that what you want? To destroy me because you're angry?" I leaned closer to the screen. "I'm not destroying you," I said quietly. "I'm stopping you from destroying me. And don't bother trying your key. The locksmith left 20 minutes ago. Your things are in a storage unit on 4th Street. The code is the last 4 digits of the police report number." I just filed. I turned off the intercom, went back to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and watched the sky slowly change color. He thought I would beg. Instead, I watched the sunrise. On the first day of the rest of my life, I did not watch him leave. I did not need to see the taillights disappear into the gray morning. I knew exactly where he was going. He was predictable. Arrogance mixed with desperation. He would not choose a hotel. He would not call a friend. He would go to the storage unit on 4th Street. Not for the suits. Not for the golf clubs. For the black lacquer box, hidden behind his winter tires. Emergency cash. And a passport I was never supposed to know about. I sat at my laptop, watching a grainy live stream. A camera no larger than a button, hidden inside the overhead light of the unit. 20 minutes later, he appeared. On screen, he looked frantic. He punched in the code, the last 4 digits of the police report. The metal door shrieked open. He ignored the neatly packed boxes, the pressed suits, the clubs aligned with surgical care. He went straight to the back corner, tearing through stacks, finding the tires, reaching for the box. The motion sensor light flicked on, and with it, my recording. "Is she worth it, Mark? Does she taste like the betrayal you've been feeding me for 3 years?" He froze, looked around wildly. Then the shadows shifted. A man stepped forward. Not cop. A rumpled suit, high-definition camera in hand. A thick stack of photographs. The investigator, the one I hired. The night I realized his business meetings lined up perfectly with my sister's yoga retreats. "Who the hell are you?" Mark hissed. "The man who followed you to the lake house." The investigator replied calmly. "The one who recorded you and Sarah on the balcony last Tuesday. The one who captured you saying that once the loan cleared, you'd leave my client with the debt and move to the coast." Mark's face drained, then flushed a sickly purple. The investigator dropped the photographs. They scattered across the concrete floor, hand holding at the pier. Secret dinners. That familiar look of devotion. The same look he once used on me. Through the screen, I watched realization dawn. This was not just about money, not just about fraud. I let him believe he was the predator. All the while, I was building the cage. "She wouldn't do this," Mark muttered. "She's too soft, too weak." The investigator stepped aside. "She's not the one standing in a storage unit at 5 in the morning with a private investigator and a fraud warrant." Another figure stepped into the light. My sister, not rushing to him, not defending him. She was crying, her phone held in front of her like a shield, her face twisted with horror, the kind of horror that comes from realizing you were never the exception, only the next entry in someone else's ledger. The air inside the storage unit was heavy. Rubber, dust, and the metallic scent of a secret collapsing. I watched from my screen at first, chin resting on my palm. The two people who hollowed out my life, standing 3 feet apart, both drowning, in a pool I had quietly filled. Mark looked at my sister. His mouth moved. No sound came out. He looked at the investigator, then up at the ceiling, at the tiny lens, as if he could see me through the pixels. That single text I sent him was not just a message. It was a flare. It lit up every dark corner of his life. "Sarah, honey, it's not what it looks like," he stammered. The same tone, the same management voice. "Honey, a habit, a leash disguised as affection." Sarah flinched. She threw her phone at his chest. "Not what it looks like. I just read the emails you sent to Chloe in Vegas. The ones where you said you were just using the sisters to get enough capital to open the club. I thought we were in love, Mark. I thought we were building something." I'd sent her those files right before she arrived. A third mistress, a third script. Her pride would never survive that. "I can explain," he said desperately. "It was strategy for investors. The only thing you invested in is your own grave." This time, I did not speak through a recording. I said it from the doorway. I had driven there. I wanted to see it. The moment the illusion cracked, I stood in the entrance, coat wrapped tight, morning light rising behind me. They both looked small, like actors who forgot their lines. "The police are 2 minutes out, Mark," I said calmly. "And Sarah, Mom, and Dad have the lake house photos. They changed the locks on the cottage. You're not just losing me. You're losing the only place you plan to land." When he eventually left you for Chloe, Sarah crumpled against a stack of boxes. Mark did not look at her. He lunged for the black lacquered box. The passport, the cash. The investigator stepped on his hand. Firm, final. That box is evidence now. Sirens began to wail in the distance. Mark looked at me. No charm, no pity, no arrogance, only fear. "You think you won?" he spat. "You're alone. You destroyed your family. You have nothing." "I have the apartment," I replied. "I have my credit score restored. I have my promotion. And for the first time in 3 years, I have a home that doesn't smell like a lie. I'd say I'm doing just fine. For a woman who couldn't handle her life without you." Blue and red lights flickered across the metal doors. I walked away. I did not look back. When handcuffs clicked, I did not look back. When my sister called my name, regret always arrives late. I got into my car, turned on the radio, and drove towards something simple. Freedom. He thought he held the strings. But when a puppet cuts her own cords, she becomes the one holding the scissors. When people treat your life like a game, the only way to win is to stop playing. Have you ever had to cut someone out to save yourself? If you made it this far, thank you for listening. Like and subscribe for more stories, where the truth always finds the light. Until next time, stay sharp